That intro never gets old. I mean,
I
it's like you
know.
say, like 2 weeks old,
I
but it just
know.
gets better and better. I love
Like
it.
I feel super official.
Yeah, right. No,
Um,
legit.
right. Hello. We've got a couple people on LinkedIn. Hi, LinkedIn folks.
Hey,
It looks like they don't show up on our like. Oh, it doesn't. I'm looking at our
no.
viewers. So your LinkedIn viewers don't show up on um, our platform. But good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are in the world. Thanks for tuning in. We are definitely like starting this week off with a bang, right?
Yeah, so we started off. So I was in the PagerDuty stream yesterday,
Yeah.
talking about chef handlers. So at the end of a run, chef can report statuses and errors and that kind of stuff to a tool. We were on a PagerDuty stream, so we were talking about PagerDuty handlers
Yeah.
and helping make them. So it was quite nice yesterday.
That's awesome.
Mandy, who we were streaming with, will be on our stream and we'll finish. See finish. I mean, loosely finish the coding we did at some point. It's gonna be pretty cool. Maybe
Sweet.
tomorrow or some other point in the future, we'll do some coding and we'll see why we've done it in the way we've done it, which is pretty cool.
Awesome. Shout out Mandy and the PagerDuty team.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting Dan hijack your stream. I'm sure.
And if you watch, I mean, let's say you watch, I definitely hijacked the entire stream.
Yeah. I'm sure. Look,
Yeah,
I think that's awesome. I think it's great to, collaborate with folks.
yeah,
We end up expanding our reach. We end up introducing our audience to other people. It's a win-win.
that's cool. That's cool.
So, what are we talking about today?
Um, so we're talking about matches today. Dan, yeah, matches or matches? No, so matches. So you've got a bit of data and you want to match it with another thing. So we're going to be about InSpec today and InSpec matches.
InSpec
Um,
matchers.
we probably want to quickly do our
Pre-flight checks.
pre-flight checks. Now I've
Yes.
sneak peeked into it. Um,
Aha. Let's do it.
I'll let you do the clicking. If we both do the clicking, what happens is it jumps on the screen, jumps like,
It does.
yeah.
So, if you are not following us on Twitter, what are you doing? Follow Chef on Twitter at Chef. It's easy to remember. You'll learn about our live streams as they come. Um, we'll learn about what we're doing, latest webinars, planned outages, etc. All of that's going to be on Twitter. We're doing really good at like keeping the community informed in that way. Follow Dan on Twitter. Dan, tell him about your Twitter.
Oh my god, I remember. So I like removed Twitter from my phone, which means I tweet less.
Oh my
I have to
god.
spend less time looking at my phone.
Well,
What was
that's
I
like
doing
not
yesterday?
bad.
It was a good thing.
But the people care about what you think. People care about what's in your head.
what was I tweeting? I think I'm probably tweeting about Home Assistant. Well, that's my my history is just full of Home Assistant stuff and DevRel stuff now over here. So that's
Nice.
what it is, DevRel and Home Assistant, which is Home Assistant is like automation platform
Hmm.
uh, for your home. It's quite cool. I quite like it.
Oh, like smart home stuff?
Yes, it's a local smart home thing.
Yeah.
So
Okay. That makes
think
sense.
Google Alexa, but without the AI home assistant. It's pretty cool. I quite
Awesome. Well, follow Dan on Twitter. Also follow me. Not super duper active. I'm talking about Dan, and I'm not super duper active on Twitter either. I just haven't found
yeah.
my footing there. I do a lot of retweeting of chef stuff. I'll post like sometimes I'll post our live stream topics a little bit beforehand, and I'll always retweet. And I'm really trying to find my find where I fit in Twitter. And I guess that's where my journey is. 22, gonna do more tweeting. So follow me and let's keep the anticipation going.
Yeah.
um, if you're part of our community, whether you're a practitioner, whether you're new to chef, you should be on community Slack. There's a wealth of knowledge Dan's there. You can you can hit Dan up and ask him questions. We've got like our engineering, like a majority of our engineering and our architect team are there as
Yeah,
well. And the community is so helpful. There's just such a breadth of knowledge in the community Slack. We've got channels for everything that you could think of, chef related, and anything, and pretty much get it answered in real time as long as you're in like the time zones in which the majority of our community is. So that's like all of the EMEA time zones and the United States, right? Did I
yeah.
how we
I think we
started?
probably cover like US, UK times, which are kind of like EMEA, US.
Yeah.
That's when we're pretty active, and there's a lot of activity in Indian,
Yeah. We're India
IST as
time
well.
too.
So
That's
yes,
true.
you kind of like there's a huge patch of the world covered there.
Right.
Like probably you're probably talking about like maybe not Japan,
Right.
probably.
But if you live in
Yeah,
Japan and you have a question, put it on Discourse.
yeah.
You know,
Fix the
Discourse is
Japan
kind of like
problem.
Stack Overflow for us,
Yeah,
so like you put a question, folks will it's like forum style. Folks will jump in and answer pretty much long form stuff and don't expect something right away. Like in that case, you'll get an answer in a day or so, which would be good. Cool. So let's, without further ado, to inspect matchers.
yeah. So I'm going to finish yawning first of all because I wanted to say you yawning really loudly.
Yeah.
Oh, I had a milkshake at lunchtime, and of course I was hyperactive for about half an hour, and now I've
You said
calmed
you had a
legs
milkshake?
down. Yeah, I ran to our we've got a chicken place nearby. It's nearby, so I'm 10 minutes away. So it's like chicken, milkshake, all good.
Oh,
And now I'm
nice.
like on my milkshake comeback. So
Right?
so inspect matches are that's right. So they're a way of you've got to, when you're testing things,
Mhm.
you want a way of like so you've got a list of things or a file you want to go and test and say, hey, I expect this thing to be in a file or um, HTTP status code. When that status code comes back, I expect it to be 500, be 400, that kind of stuff. So that's how you match your expectations with your reality.
Mhm.
Um, so we just bring this back up here. There are universal matches and there are resource-specific matches. We'll start with talking about the universal matches because that will lead us down a deep dark hole, which is well, where we're going today. It's not that dark and it's actually not that deep. It's fine. So InSpec is built on RSpec matches and they're very similar language
Mhm.
because building it on good foundations is always is very helpful. Um,
Well, what's our
so we
spec?
so RSpec is a testing framework for Ruby, and obviously Chef and InSpec are both written in Ruby, so we can use the RSpec matches. So
Cool.
with RSpec, I'll start with RSpec. I'll come back to the generic matches in a second. So you can use things like to EQ uh, to not match to match. So you can do things like I expect it to be, not to be, those kind of things. You can say I want to have a value equal, so I expect the type to be the same as well. So if you do EQ here, let's make it a little bit. Ooh, ooh. So if you're doing EQ here, because I've just realised how small this is on the screen.
That's
If you're using the
true.
EQ
Oh,
match, it
it's
also
squinting.
does the type. Is that actually still readable? Let me know if it's
Yeah,
not
it's
readable
readable.
in the chat.
It's perfect.
Also, if anyone in the chat can't read this and you want me to make it bigger, let us know. I'm happy to make it
Yes.
bigger. Whatever. Um, you'll notice that if you ever use InSpec, the syntax here is super similar. So two and then a matcher at the end. Let's scroll. It's fine. Get rid of this. And there's some built-in matches, so to not be empty, to do a bunch of other stuff. InSpec can use those matches. What we really like to do is have our own generic matches here. So be in, compare, EQ, include, and match. I usually use the match one, which is the last one, partially out of habit. Again, I'm going to make this bigger because this is a big page. So B is a numerical comparison. B in if you numbers in lists. Compare is the recommended one. I usually use B instead of compare because I've got
Mm-hmm.
to, or EQ. I really don't use comp because it's a long-standing habit of mine.
So
Comp is
like
really nice.
so when you were explaining this to me earlier, Dan, because I'm coming everybody that
Mhm.
knows or anybody that's like have been tuning in for a while, they know that I'm coming from like a web development, so JavaScript, .NET, that's my background. So like when Dan, when you were explaining this to me earlier, we were talking about comparing comp and EQ
Yeah,
as like equals, like triple equals versus
yeah.
like the regular equals.
So compare is like kind of lazy. You're like, well, yeah, it kind of looks like it, and because Ruby is a dynamically typed language, it can kind of like, well, this kind of looks like this, or yeah, it's kind of it's fine. You're kind of fine. It's very relaxed, so it's
Okay.
less restrictive. If you're comparing the number eight with a string with an eight in it, it will try and match those together quite nicely.
Right.
So
Okay. Okay.
it's it's okay there. But
So it's like
with EQ, you would have to type that. You would have to cast that to another type. So say you are comparing the string eight again with the integer eight.
mhm,
You would want to make those the same type before you
types.
start doing that.
Gotcha.
I prefer doing that because it's a little bit more explicit. And I quite like types generally. When I'm comparing a string to a string, if I end up doing comparing a string to an integer by accident, I think that's an error, but lots of people think actually it's fine. It lets you be a little bit more relaxed, which is quite nice for a lot of people.
Gotcha.
And so EQ here. So the protocol. Um, so this is a good example. So the SSHD config brings you back a string. So the protocol, the SSH protocol here is two. Um, the the actual like SSH config matcher will bring you back a big string array of data that's found.
Mhm.
So InSpec will go away and go grab a bunch of data and put it back. And the protocol is a string underneath the hood when it's stored in InSpec. If you use the EQ matcher, you have to use the string. If
Mhm.
you use comp, you can use the number, which is quite nice. So maybe you want to use the number rather than the thing, and they're both correct if you use comp, but they're only correct way of doing it with EQ is the string because the underlying data structure is a string. Again with comp, you'll see me not do this later on. I just copy and paste the actual text. But comp isn't case sensitive either. Again, quite nice. Um, and you can do some version strings. So comp is really smart under the hood and does a
Mhm.
bunch of really nice stuff. So uh, the curl package should be more than 735. Well, if you have 7.3.5.1, it's a higher version of that. It's really good. And comp will under the hood recognize all of that stuff. And that blows my mind slightly. So it's quite
Wait, what? So
nice.
if you had
Yeah, right, yeah, okay, yeah. Let us sink in for a second.
right?
I was gonna brush over this compare function.
Yeah.
But when you
So like
start
if
digging
you
into compare, it's mad. Ooh,
hmm,
something happened.
that's very interesting. So like what would it I mean, I'm curious about what it would return. Like would it say would it match? Would it match or would it say something like along the lines of the version is um higher or something like that? What would it do?
Yeah, so this is where you kind of want if you've got a higher version than 735.0, if you've got a higher version than that, you really want um you really want a more than equals less sign. So what am I trying to say? Let me put the headphones back on because my other headphones just died a death.
Oh, Look, Benny says she loves watching my brain get blown.
It was really nice. I was going to
Like,
continue going on that. I was going to just brush over this thing, this little
right,
thing
like,
here.
yeah, like, it does, like, all this cool thing, and there's one
Yeah,
freaking epic thing, and then we're just gonna keep on talking, and I'm over here like, "What?"
honestly. So the first time I came across comp, oh, that's pretty cool. I don't really like the case insensitive stuff. Blah, blah, blah. And I scrolled down a bit further and found this, and I was like, sorry, what?
Yeah.
It's mad. So you're like, well, 735.1, yeah, so it's really helpful to say, right, I know that this is a version number from a package. Right, so the
Mhm.
package resource, and we'll dig into the package resource a little bit more later on, and what version and what the attributes you can get from package resource. In fact, I'll bring it up now. Backgrounds. There we go. I'll save that one for later. So you can do a comp, and the package resource will bring back its version because underneath the hood, it knows what operating system it's running on, so you can then go and interrogate in the package manager way, the correct package manager way, DPKG probably on Debian, bring up the version of this.
Mhm.
You've got like this whole version of string, and that's not a very nice version in there. But underneath the hood, it knows that 735.0.1 and 122.10, blah, 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 all of this stuff is part of its version. It knows how to split this down. It knows that if the 7 increases, then the 3.5 increase. Big numbers, and in fact, if your 10 increases back here,
Mhm.
it's all that's what gets it. And how that's helpful is if you know that you've got an insecure package version, or like in a bunch of places, you can say, right, I want I'll accept anything above 735, whatever I've got here,
Right.
and that'll actually do that. So you can do more than an equals to a good version package number. So there's some really smart little things,
Right.
which are pretty
Very,
sweet. And
very, very
again,
helpful.
arrays here, like you can say like the array should look like this. It should be a single item array. Or I can like explicitly say it should be a single item array. If all our comp being just stupid complex in the background.
Wow. Okay.
And then the
That makes
comp will
sense.
also do a regex match as well. So like comp is basically everything if you want it to be everything.
Everything.
I prefer not to do this, but it can do all of these things. There's another one here, so yeah, so there's some nice um, again.
Okay, so that's the kind of what it throws back.
So
Gotcha.
if you're using the file resource, it knows it's going to be using octals, so how file modes work in Linux. It'll go 0777 or 0666 or 660. All of these numbers mean something to someone who loves Linux. Octal file modes, I do not. So that's okay. But it can just print them out and handle that data nicely, which is cool. Some of the other matches don't do that. They just try to do as little as possible and try to have its scope really small. But the comp matcher is
Mhm.
mad. The comp matcher is a generic matcher a universal matcher. I
Universal,
can't
yeah.
remember the word. It's a universal matcher, so it's available on all of the on all of the resources. And you say, Dan, you're talking about resources. What are resources? So
Let's talk about that.
let me just scroll it first with the comp. EQ is a more specific way of matching things. It cares about types. I'll come back to what a resource is. Spoiler, the paper's here. But I'll come back to in a second.
Okay.
We've got EQ here, and then it's a bit. So yeah, but again, use comp if you like to be a little bit more. This is a little bit less restrictive. Include, I quite like using include because it's very specific. As I say here, the description is so short. It's like you've got an array. You want to find something in an array. Done. Like that's what you do. That's what you're doing with include. Is you're trying to find a value in an array. So
Uh-huh.
let's say how would you do that in Ruby? So it's literally the include method. So Ruby has an include method. So if you had an array, let me just do some typing. So this might be easier if I can bring up a terminal.
Bring up the terminal, Dan.
Because
Terminal head.
I didn't realise I was going to be doing this. Can't be. Yeah, okay. Did I? Nah, it's not going to work, is it? That's very blank.
Uh-oh.
Try again, Dan. Huh. Let me share whole screen instead.
Can you, or do you need me to pull up the docs?
That should be fine.
Okay.
That's some. I wonder if
I
there's
don't
some
like
sort of
that.
security there. It's fine. I see
Yeah.
what I do.
Lions.
I reckon that'll be some security based thing. So we'll leave that for now because I'm not going to fight with my computer not trying to show something. It's fine.
Okay. Well, I know we got a couple of new viewers, and I
Yeah.
just kind of want to recap like what we're going over. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for joining, everybody. Today we are going over InSpec matchers. Now, so far we've gone through the comp matcher and EQ, and comp is freaking amazing. It just does
I've been on
everything.
stream for
Just
about
does
like 20 minutes and I've just gone through the comp matcher.
right.
It's just
Exactly.
like, this is really like relaxed thing where you can just do everything. Sorry,
Right,
what?
where you can just do everything. You could just do everything. Like you can compare pretty much anything. So
Yeah,
it's like the
like
catch-all matcher.
so the one cool thing is if you weren't using packages. I mean that's the take home there is the comp can deal with package numbers.
Yes.
Like if you want to have a package number compared to something else, like I want this package, I want it everything above this package, then you can do stuff like that, which is really cool.
So yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
You've got include and then begin, and I'm going to skip over those. So we'll see this again. I really like using match because apparently me and my friends over at Sushats really like using regex because we're
Mhm.
sadists. I just don't.
Oh,
I really
okay.
like it's regex heaven or hell depending on who you are. You just you've got your SSHD config, your ciphers, you've got a list of ciphers, and you expect something not to be in the ciphers thing. So
Mhm.
that we don't want CVC to be in the ciphers list. So the ciphers is like a long string of like here's the ciphers I've got enabled.
Okay.
So how would you do that? Well, I could use a list, but is it really a list? It might be just a string that comes back, and you want to sort of pick part of that string apart, or you can do all of the crazy stuff that regex does. Really, and that's why I use the match,
Okay.
the regex matcher, which is match. So built-in matches, we've gone over that. Just take one of the resources.
So if you basically want to make, well, I don't know. I'm regex is there's definitely a place for them.
Yeah,
There
I think
is.
the people who are writing the tests that I'm used to seeing, we all have just because a lot of us are operating system folks and engineers, well, engineers, I'm sorry, engineers, like operations engineers. Regex is kind of a thing we use because we have to, so we end up getting quite good at it. And you're like, yeah,
Right.
well, I'm going to use regex again because we have to.
Because we have to.
Um,
Right.
and then it turns out like actually regex always ends up fitting this bucket. You're like, yeah, oh, that'll do fine. So we end up with regex. Like, why use regex
Right.
again, Dan? Because I guess because I've got a good reason. But sometimes it fits really well. So resources. Resources have their own set up matches with them. So what are resources? We've got the package resource. Do we have a single page? Yes, the single page might be easier. If you haven't seen the single page of OS resources or just the of resources before, this may blow your mind. This list is always getting is increasing. I don't think this is the complete list because sometimes
Wow.
the docs lag a little bit behind the actual resources in InSpec, but I mean that's just some of the resources here. And there's the Postgres one. There we go. I
Hmm.
don't confident that there are resources that are specific to programs. So I think might be the Nginx resource I did somewhere. No, it isn't. I can see it there somewhere. Come on. Got the Nginx resource and the Nginx conf resource. So pick a program that's quite popular, like Nginx, and you
Hmm.
may well have a specific matcher for it, which is really nice.
Oh,
Um,
sweet.
and we can dig into each of these things. So again, we'll see the conf matcher,
Hmm.
but we have specific matches for the Nginx conf one. So the you get a nice example. Let's just know. Uh, well, I will find some nice examples in a second. Let's go back to the package. Boom. Right. Package results. Package results. So be installed. Like, how else did you say this? Like, you can't use a compare matcher. You can't use a B matcher like B like, or EQ like should equal installed. Like, how would you do that? Well,
Right, right,
this is why
right.
the package. This is why the package resource has a specific matcher called B installed.
Okay. So then
Uh huh.
that so then that specific resource comes with that matcher. So be installed is
Yeah.
not
So being
universal.
installed is
Okay, that
just for
makes
that one. I think there's a service resource. I think this, go to the service resource because this is. There we go. So the service resource. I'm going to jump out of the docs for a second. I'll go into the um, Apache default controls. The service one has a be installed, be enabled, and be running. I think we can go and check. If you want to see these are on docs.chef.io, and it'll be under the service resource here. Type in service. Um, all of the stuff is here. So all of the stuff and more that I'm going to show is documented on InSpec on docs.chef.io. So yeah, if you get stuck and I've brushed over something, do one of two things. Tell me to slow down, which is cool.
you just
And also, I apologize for people watching in the future. And you're like, damn, why are you so quick? Sugar is the answer, probably.
milkshakes.
And also, just tell me, just tell me here, like, just let me know if you go too quickly. And if I am going too quickly and you're watching it back later on, just go to docs.chef.
Yes, and also
Anyway,
you can also, if you're watching it later on YouTube, throw a comment in. If we could clarify something, we'd be happy to.
definitely. So you've got like being installed, being able to be running. Like these are things. These are nouns that you will be using with the service resource. These are things you expect when you do systemd service and you want to see the status of it. You'll see it's installed and it'll figure out if it's systemd or initd or any of these other init systems. Again, InSpec will do all this hard work for you. I'm going to figure out which init system it is. Thank goodness. No one needs that pain. InSpec will figure that out for you.
Hmm.
So we'll go and look at the HTTP DU service, which should be installed, enabled, and running. That's usually the standard thing we always look for is it installed? Cool. Is it now enabled? Yes. Is it running? Yes. Now, why we have those three
Okay.
is a service can be installed but not enabled. It could be installed, enabled, but not running because you
Hmm.
might have it configured badly. So that gives you it's a really nice diagnostics test to have all those three. My recommendation is if you're using the service resource and using these matches, use all three of them. Always use all three of them because it may seem redundant. Like if it's running, it's probably enabled and it's probably installed. Correct.
Right.
But if it's installed, it doesn't mean it's enabled or running. So you want to step down the path that way, which is really
Got
nice.
you.
Like most of the time, it's also just two extra lines of code, and you'll get the whole
If it fails, it should be running, figure out whether it's installed or enabled. So you might as well.
Exactly, yeah. So I just put all three of them on all the time, which is cool.
Right.
But the
Okay.
HTTP service, sorry, HTTP resource is one of my favourite because I'm like, oh my gosh, I've actually used the compare matcher here, the comp matcher. Oh, I'm not sure if I was feeling okay that day. This is unusual for me because I was using the comp matcher. I also probably don't use the comp matcher as much as it should be because, as we've just found out today, it's freaking amazing.
Freaking amazing.
Um, so actually, I did use EQ here, which is I want the number 403 to come back from the HTTP status.
Right. And
Um, and when I'm using it, so Apache, when you um, enable the default site, sometimes you'll get like weird statuses back, or I shouldn't be forbidden. So if I configured if I de- try again. If I've configured the default site in Apache correctly, I should not get forbidden. Sometimes you'll get forbidden if you've enabled the default site but you haven't done a couple of configuration steps. I think that's true in Red Hat that you can enable default site but it just doesn't show. And then if you try and get to it, it'll tell you forbidden. A bit of a weird thing. But actually, most of the time, default site's not helpful. So we did some configuration, and well, I should never see forbidden, so that's great. So we instead of doing should, we do a should not there. Pretty simple, quite nice. It just uh, switches the logic there to flips on its head. So if I ever see forbidden, it breaks the test.
mhm.
Again, for the body, it works. So you can say HTTP control here has status of the body and a bunch of other stuff. You go and find the HTTP results. HTTP. And there's some really cool stuff with the HTTP resource. If you haven't seen this resource, I'm not going to go through it already anymore. There's stuff like the local and remote targets. So I can say targets are so I can go onto a machine and then HTTP from there. I can curl out from there, or I can curl from my local machine and do that. So wherever you're using InSpec, you can use a remote target or local target. That's really helpful to know. But we'll go into more detail about that. Unless someone wants to go into more detail about that, let me know. I have actually found that really useful in the past about being able to run it from either your local machine or a remote machine because then DNS might be different and that kind of stuff. We've got some auth parameters and that kind of stuff. Find out. So properties. So we've got body, headers, content type. So you've got all the headers you can get into. So content type is specific header. You can get all those. You can query all of those, and the method that comes back as well, and status and that kind of stuff. So pretty, I say self-explanatory,
Okay.
but it's really, really thorough. So it's quite nice there.
Yeah.
What
For
else
sure.
you
So
got?
basically you can inspect the entirety of like the HTTP request
Oh yeah,
or
totally.
return. Mm,
There's another one here somewhere. I wanted to show this one because I knew it existed. And I didn't write it because I didn't want to write it. But where's defaults? There we go. Right. So when you're using the matches, you can do some nilly stuff. I think this is definitely the last one I show now,
mhm,
because I think I'm just going to leave it a bang. Because this is some gnarly stuff, and this is as far as you can. Like, there's some other stuff you can take it a bit further than this, but
mhm.
when you are using matches, you can pass in objects and arrays and that kind of stuff. This is all just Ruby at the end of the day. So if you've got an array of items here, so defaults, timeouts, whatever.
Right.
So the content of what we're looking at the HA proxy config. So so the content of the file we just talked about should match defaults.join new line. So I've got a so I'm looking for
Oh.
I'm looking for a string that
Mm-hmm.
looks like this. So this defaults here. So go into HA proxy config, read the whole thing, please,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and then match it with this array that I give you. And bada
Okay.
bing, it works. The indentation's a bit weird on this one. I'm not going to fix it because it's not actually broken. It's just about readable. But you see
Right.
here, like again, it's kind of like you're kind of mocking out an object, and
Mm-hmm.
then you're going out, you're using InSpec to go out and go grab a thing, grab
Mm-hmm.
the data back, and then hey, can InSpec come back and say hey, um, give me your string please. I'm going to compare it with this object I've already got. In this case, it's just an array. Like match these
Right.
two things together. And that's where the match is really, really powerful. Is because it's just a
Okay.
bunch of regex, and actually the
Mm-hmm.
regex here is just a string. So these curly braces, you probably don't recognize as curly braces because you've done Ruby before, but this is just string interpolation, which is like it's different in every language. C sharp has string interpolation. I'm
It
assuming.
does.
Cool. I'm assuming. Also, I think Ruby's the only one that has the hash curly braces as
Yeah, I'm
well.
not familiar with
Hmm.
that. So yeah, right. So that must be
So
like
the
a
hash
Ruby
curly
thing.
braces is
Even though I
just
did just take a Ruby course, but
you
that's
might not have seen it in the Ruby course, maybe. But yeah,
probably
the
I don't
hash.
remember that.
If you're writing out a string, so you'll open the string, do something with the string, and then like in the middle of the string you can put a value, and that does that. So in the middle of the string, well, this whole thing is just join that array above with new line characters, and then match it with the content of HA proxy config. So I'm going through here. So HA proxy config, I want the default section to look like that. I want the front end section, and from the HTTP section to like this, and the backend tiles public to look like this. This wasn't the original way we did it. This has ended up being a nicer way of doing it. But you can tell the people writing these tests, if you're not me, were quite good Ruby programmers because um, it's kind of readable, which is nice and you can start. I mean, that's kind of like nice matches. Also, let's blow our mind with the compare matches. And then we ended up with like, I don't know why we ended up in HA proxy that again. Um, but the HA proxy matches, which do some nasty, nice stuff there. But as a
Yeah.
result, we found a bunch of really weird bugs with HA proxy and how we were configuring those resources there. So it's quite nice. I'm gonna
What
pause.
type?
Oh, what was that? Sorry.
You said you found bugs.
Yeah, so we found so HA proxy uses the accumulator pattern,
Mm-hmm.
and that pattern is notoriously a bit complicated,
Okay.
and it's just printed bugs really.
Okay, got you.
So we're going through an array basically. Well, we were building up a file and then putting the file on disk, which has its own problems. Um, Ideally, don't use the accumulator pattern if you can get away with it, because if you, so long and short of it, if you're accumulating a resource and they don't ever get to save it to file, then you just dump the entire accumulation and you just end up with a blank file, which is a super shame. So ideally, don't do that. But we were doing, I think the way we were accumulating or the way we were adding to the accumulator, it wasn't quite adding things in the right order or something weird like that. So we ended up with this
Gotcha.
array that we would then compare against, and that worked. And that seemed to be like the least horrible way,
Mm-hmm.
but it still ended up with a way that we can maintain, we can read. That's really nice. And what about you questions around it somewhere? No, don't think we have.
I don't see any questions. This has been a quiet group.
Yeah, we've got four people online.
Yeah.
Well, actually, four people that I can see who are not on LinkedIn. So, there's some poor soul watching
And we
on be on
have two
Twitch.
people on.
Two people on LinkedIn. Cool. So there's like six people kicking around. If anyone's got any questions about it, let's say I'm going to widen it up there. So anything about InSpec, anything about matches, any of that kind of stuff, or you can just let us know if you've got any questions about something you want to see in a future show as well. Because we're making some of the stuff
Yeah.
up as we go along. We've been talking for a while about matches and what they are, but come on, this is something else. I know. Um, Dan
I want to
and the
know if
automated
anybody
ones.
that's hmm.
Go on, go on.
I was gonna say I want to know if anybody's used matchers and
Hmm.
you know what's been your experience. I mean, if you use InSpec, you pretty much had to. So
Very much.
sound off
Yeah.
in the comments and let us know where you're from because I always like to
Yes.
know where everybody's from that's watching. I think that's cool, right?
Yeah, I quite like the. Let me find this. Let me find this. Yeah, I think we had a bunch of people from.
We had folks from like the Netherlands last time.
Did we? That's always nice.
Netherlands, and it's right, and then somebody else from someplace else in Europe, someplace in Europe. It was just like really, random, and I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I quite
I
like
just
that.
love how we're able to connect globally.
There we go. So, how many people? How many people are on? Give us
Hmm.
5 minutes. And then I'm going to give my voice a break.
Okay, that works. So, like, what
What?
else people on? Or we're having a guest on Thursday,
Oh,
Jazz.
we are, yeah. So I'm actually super stoked about that.
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna be
So who
great. I
have you
mean,
got? So
so.
we've got Jess Rose of
Hmm.
N8N, which are a cool automation company. We are going to do some. Yeah, well, I suppose this morning I'm interested in what N8N can help the chef community do. Really, really cool
Hmm.
stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, there's some. There is. We're primarily just not going to talk about N8N really, or chef. We're going to start talking about. I'm just kind of like zoned out there for a second. We're going to talk about developer laziness, um, which may or may not be a thing.
I don't know. I don't think it's
Because
a thing.
no, no, me neither. But we might find out if it's a thing or not on Thursday. Because she did a
Interesting.
big series on it recently. And I want to pick her brains about developer laziness. I've met plenty of lazy developers who are not actually lazy. However, I think I have met developers who think they're not lazy, who are not motivated. So therefore, not lazy really, just unmotivated.
Right.
Simple as
Just,
that,
I
really.
mean, I so earlier in, I guess, software development, when automation wasn't like as much of a thing, right? And it was really innovative developers who decided that or who moved to automate things. And I guess maybe other developers would say, "Oh, are you doing that because you're lazy?" So I don't know. That's just my thought. And now automation is like the way. And guess what? We still have people that have jobs. Remember, it
Oh
was like a
yeah, that was
huge
always the
thing,
fun one
right?
where
Like,
like
if you automate everything, then nobody's gonna have jobs. But I mean, we've
oh
got
yeah,
automation.
that was
We
always
still
the
have
argument. Like,
jobs,
oh, if I learn this automation thing, I'll be out of a job, right? But no, you can just control more things, which is
right?
always fun.
Which is
I think
always
my
fun.
mind was blown to a level where I could stop SSHing into multiple servers to install this thing called Oracle PeopleSoft. And then we did it with Chef, and it was done. And I was like, sorry, what? And then all of our servers are maintained by Chef, and that was great. And it just works. And then one day, I think it was a few years later, Terraform was getting mainstream, and then we did it at a kind of orchestration level. So I created a load balancer. Well, before, load balancers were not created by me. It was created by an entirely different team, and then the port forwards were maintained by a different team. There's no API. I could just, hey Richard, I would walk next door and be like, hey Richard, I need a new port forward, please. And he would tap away, and he would submit a change request, and it would go through the RFC process, and then many months later, I might have a port forward, or we would
Right.
just do it,
Right.
depending how cool it was. Richard was very cool though, and then we had Terraform, where we just did everything via the API. So something had an API, and then suddenly I was creating many servers, more than I'd ever managed before. And then I was like, well, I've had enough of that. And then I destroyed them all. I did a Terraform destroy, and then I automated the whole process, and that was like mad. So that was like the first time I'd used Chef and Terraform together, which kind of sounds not lazy at all. But you're like,
It
well,
doesn't sound lazy to me.
like, but I'm starting down the automation journey because you are bored with doing the manual things, right? So that you feel lazy. That would be my argument to the whole thing. So,
Yeah. I'm interested, like, so I can't wait for Thursday. Thursday, same time, same place. Tune in. You don't want to miss it because I mean, I'm sure we've got a lot of engineers. Obviously, we have a lot of engineers in our community and folks that are tuning in. So, like, definitely tune in and sound off in the comments about your opinions on Thursday because we'll also be able to, you know, pick Jess's brain, and the more perspectives, the merrier.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, let me know if you're a lazy developer or if you think they don't exist.
Hmm.
Because I think it'd be interesting to see if there's somebody out there that still believes that lazy developers are a thing. But maybe we're thinking about different stuff. So
True.
that'll be interesting to see that. That's cool.
Hmm.
All right.
Cool.
Take it easy. I think we're going to finish that.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to stop.
All right.
All right, y'all. See you on Thursday.
Take it easy.